Imagine for a moment that you disappear without leaving a trace in one of the most vast and unforgiving places on Earth. 7 years pass by. Your family stops believing. The world moves forward. And then, as if you had stepped out of a time machine, you simply reappear. But you are no longer the same person. This is not science fiction. This is the disturbing story of Ashley Mitchell, a 28-year-old photographer who disappeared along with her best friend in the heart of the Grand Canyon in March 2017. For 7 years, there were no clues. There were no answers. Only the deafening silence of the desert. But in March 2024, Ashley returned, and the secret she brought with her will shake everything you think you know about unexplained disappearances. If you are ready to dive into one of the most chilling and inexplicable cases of recent times, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because today you will discover what really happened in the last 7 years and why Michael Roberts never came home. The Grand Canyon guards its secrets very well, but some secrets are too big to remain buried forever. Ashley Marie Mitchell was the type of person who saw magic where others saw only landscape. At 28 years old, with her reddish-brown hair always tied in a practical ponytail and green eyes that seemed to capture light in a unique way, she had transformed her passion for nature photography into a thriving career in Portland, Oregon. Ashley measured 5 feet 5 inches and had an athletic build resulting from years exploring trails in the Cascade Mountains. Her hands, always stained with dirt after long hikes, would hold her Canon EOS 5D Mark IV camera as if it were an extension of her own body. She had an infectious laugh that echoed through the mountains and a smile that illuminated even the cloudiest days of the Pacific Northwest. Since childhood, Ashley collected rocks and leaves, creating small museums in her room. Her parents, Linda and Robert Mitchell, always knew she was destined for a life outdoors. Ashley never stayed still for more than 5 minutes, Linda used to say with pride. She was always looking for the next adventure, the next perfect photo. Her passion for photography began at 16 when she received a used camera for her birthday. Within a few months, she was selling prints of her landscapes at local fairs. At 22, she already had her first solo exhibition at a Portland gallery. Her photographs had something special, an ability to capture not just the image, but the soul of wild places. Ashley was meticulous in her planning. Each trip was researched exhaustively. She knew the weather conditions, escape routes, potential dangers. It was this obsessive preparation that kept her safe in environments where many others got lost. Michael David Roberts was the perfect complement to Ashley's adventures. At 30 years old, standing 6 feet tall with the robust build of someone who had spent his entire life climbing mountains, Michael was an experienced adventure guide based in Flagstaff, Arizona. His sun-bleached blonde hair and well-trimmed beard framed a bronzed face marked by expression lines that told stories of thousands of hours under the open sky. Michael and Ashley met 5 years earlier on a trail at Mount Hood. She was photographing the sunrise when he appeared, helping a group of lost tourists find their way back. It was friendship at first sight. 2 adventurous spirits who understood the silent language of the wilderness. Mike had this gift for reading the land, Ashley wrote on her personal blog. He could look at the sky and tell exactly when rain would arrive. He knew every sound of the forest, every sign of weather change. It was like having a human GPS, but better. Michael grew up in Arizona, son of a retired National Park ranger. Since age 8, he spent summers exploring the Grand Canyon with his father, learning to read rocks like pages of a history book. At 18, he was already working as a junior guide, taking visitors along the most challenging trails. In 2017, he had more than 200 documented descents into the canyon. He was known for his infinite patience with inexperienced tourists and his almost supernatural ability to find water in arid terrain. Fellow guides nicknamed him Radar because he always seemed to know exactly where he was, even in the most labyrinthine parts of the canyon. The friendship between Ashley and Michael grew through shared adventures. Together, they explored the Cascades, the Rockies, and the Mojave Desert. Ashley documented their journeys with stunning photographs, while Michael navigated the most treacherous terrain with the confidence of someone who had been born for it. In January 2017, Ashley proposed an adventure they had both been dreaming about for years: a 5-day photographic expedition through the lesser-known trails of the Grand Canyon. Michael knew routes that few tourists ever saw, paths that led to spectacular views away from the crowds. "This is going to be the trip that changes everything," Ashley wrote in her last Instagram post before they departed. "Mike promised to show me the Grand Canyon as the first explorers saw it. Raw, untouched, absolute." They spent weeks planning every detail. Michael mapped the route, identified water sources and camping points. Ashley researched the best positions for photographing sunrise and sunset. Both were in excellent physical shape, experienced in desert survival, equipped with the best available gear. They were two people at the peak of their lives, prepared for an adventure that had been dreamed and planned with the precision of a military operation. Neither Ashley nor Michael could imagine that within days, one of them would disappear completely from the face of the earth, and the other would enter a nightmare that would last exactly 7 years. What should have been the adventure of their lives was about to become one of the most disturbing mysteries in the modern history of the Grand Canyon. March 15, 2017. The day dawned with a crystal clarity that only Arizona can offer. The temperature was perfect, 72 degrees Fahrenheit at the south rim, with a gentle breeze coming from the west. Weather conditions could not have been better for the expedition that Ashley and Michael had planned so meticulously. At 5:47 in the morning, Ashley posted her last photo on Instagram, an image of the sunrise over the canyon, with the caption, "Day 1 of 5. The adventure begins. The Grand Canyon. Photography. Living the dream." The photo showed Michael in the background, adjusting the straps of his 65-liter backpack, a confident smile on his face. At 6:15, they began the descent via the Bright Angel Trail, one of the canyon's most popular routes. But Michael had other plans. After approximately 45 minutes of walking, he guided Ashley to a secondary trail, less marked, that veered west. It was a route he had known since adolescence, a path that led to spectacular views, away from the tourist crowds. "Mike showed me this trail for the first time 2 years ago," Ashley had explained to her mother Linda over the phone the night before. "It's like discovering a secret world. We're going to camp in places that 99% of people will never see." Michael's GPS recorded their location at 7:32. 36 degrees, 3 minutes, 12.4 seconds. North, 112 degrees, 7 minutes, 28.1 seconds west, approximately 1.8 miles southwest of the starting point. The elevation had dropped from 7,000 to 6,200 feet. Ashley photographed the view from this point. It would be one of the last images on her camera. At 8:45, Michael sent a text message to his sister Sarah in Flagstaff. "Perfect day. A is taking incredible photos. Everything's fine here." Cell phone signal in this area was sporadic, but still worked at some elevated points. Between 9 and 11:30 in the morning, Ashley took 47 photographs. The images, later recovered from her camera, showed the progression of their journey. Dramatic rock formations, Michael navigating narrow passages, panoramic views of the canyon that seemed from another planet. The last photo was taken at 11:28, Michael pointing at something outside the frame with an expression of genuine curiosity. At 11:35, Michael's GPS registered their last known position, 36 degrees, 2 minutes, 45.3 seconds, north, 112 degrees, 8 minutes, 15.7 seconds, west. They were now 3.2 miles from the starting point, in an area known locally as Devil's Ridge, a labyrinth of smaller canyons and rock formations that branched off from the main canyon. What happened in the following minutes remains an absolute mystery. At 12:10, a group of experienced hikers, the Johnsons from Colorado, spotted a blue backpack abandoned about 200 meters from a small spring. It was Ashley's backpack. Inside, they found her wallet, documents, extra photographic equipment. But her main camera was missing. There were no signs of struggle. There was no blood. There were no footprints around the backpack other than the Johnsons' own footprints. Most disturbing, about 50 meters from the backpack, Ashley and Michael's footprints simply disappeared. Not gradually, not becoming fainter. They literally ended abruptly on a solid rock surface, as if both had been levitated out of the canyon. The Johnsons, alarmed, immediately activated the park's emergency system. Rescue was notified at 12:43 in the afternoon. At 1:15, the first search team arrived. At the location, veteran ranger Thomas Mackenzie, with 23 years of experience at the Grand Canyon, would later describe the scene as the strangest thing I've seen in more than 2 decades doing this. The area was immediately cordoned off. Ashley and Michael's planned campsite, just 600 meters away, was untouched. Their tents were still set up exactly as they had left them the night before. The food was organized, sleeping bags were arranged, the campfire had been completely extinguished following safety protocols. It was as if they had gone out for a morning walk and simply evaporated, reported Mackenzie. In 23 years, I've never seen footprints end that way. Footprints don't simply disappear into thin air. At 2:30, rescue helicopters began aerial sweeps of the area. Visibility was perfect. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Thermal cameras were employed, but detected no human heat signatures within a 5-mile radius. At 3:45, search and rescue dogs arrived at the location. The dogs followed Ashley and Michael's trail to exactly the same point where the footprints disappeared. Then, inexplicably, the animals refused to continue. They whimpered, backed away, and some even lay down on the ground, refusing to move forward. "I've never seen the dogs react that way," commented handler Jake Morrison. "It was as if there was something in the air they could sense, but we couldn't." At 5 o'clock on March 15th, the rescue operation was officially elevated to a large-scale emergency search. The operation commander, Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Coconino County Sheriff's Office, mobilized all available resources. Within 2 hours, more than 40 people were in the canyon. Park rangers, experienced search and rescue volunteers, paramedics, and a specialized high-mountain rescue unit. 3 helicopters flew over the area in systematic search patterns. "Initially, we thought it could be a fall," Rodriguez explained. Years later, the Grand Canyon claims several lives per year due to accidental falls, but there were no cliffs in the area where the footprints ended, and even if there had been, we would have found evidence, damaged equipment, blood trails, something. The first theory investigated was the possibility that Ashley and Michael had gotten lost and wandered to a different area. But this theory quickly proved implausible. Michael knew that region like the palm of his hand. His own footprints showed confident and directed navigation, not the erratic patterns of lost people. The second theory involved wild animals. The Grand Canyon houses black bears, mountain lions, and occasionally wolves. But there were no signs of animal attack, no drag marks, no blood. And animals wouldn't explain the simultaneous disappearance of two experienced adults. As night fell on March 15th, the temperature plummeted to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Rescue teams worked with flashlights and portable spotlights, hoping to hear cries for help or see campfire signals. The canyon remained silent. Linda Mitchell arrived at the Grand Canyon at 11:30 at night, driving directly from Portland in a state of panic. "My daughter doesn't disappear like this," she repeated to anyone who would listen. "Ashley is careful. She's experienced." Something terrible happened. Michael's father, Robert Roberts, the retired ranger, arrived from Flagstaff at 2:15 in the morning. His 30 years of experience in the canyon made him a respected voice in the operation. "Mike knows every rock in that area," he told Commander Rodriguez. "If they're not responding, it's not because they chose not to respond." During the following 3 days, the search expanded to a 15-mile radius. More than 120 people participated in the operation, including canyoneering specialists from throughout the American Southwest. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras mapped every crevice, every cave, every possible hiding place. On the third day, Ashley's camera was found. It was on a small rocky ledge, about 2.5 miles northeast of where her backpack had been discovered. The camera was intact, working perfectly. All 47 photos were there, including the last image of Michael pointing at something outside the frame. Forensic specialists analyzed the camera thoroughly. There were no strange fingerprints, no signs of impact or damage. It seemed to have been carefully placed on the ledge, not dropped or thrown. "It was as if someone wanted us to find the camera," observed forensic investigator Dr. Amanda Foster. "The position wasn't natural for an accidental fall, but it also didn't show signs of having been manipulated by force." On the 5th day, the official rescue operation was converted to a recovery investigation, essentially a search for bodies. This transition devastated the families. Linda Mitchell collapsed when she received the news. Robert Roberts, the veteran ranger, cried for the first time in decades. But even as a recovery operation, the investigation produced no results. No body was found, no additional evidence was discovered, no explanation emerged for the impossible disappearance of two experienced people in broad daylight. 3 weeks after the disappearance, the active investigation was suspended. The case remained open, but resources were redirected to active emergencies. Ashley Mitchell and Michael Roberts had become 2 more names on the long list of people the Grand Canyon had swallowed without leaving traces. But unlike other cases, this one had elements that defied all logic and experience. The footprints that ended in nothing. The dogs that refused to continue. The carefully positioned camera. And a question that would haunt everyone involved for the next 7 years. How do 2 people simply disappear into thin air in one of the most monitored and mapped regions of the United States? The answer to this question would remain a mystery. Until one morning in March 2024, when Ashley Mitchell would reappear as mysteriously as she had disappeared. The years dragged on like a wound that refuses to heal. For Linda Mitchell, each dawn brought the same torturous question: where is my daughter? For Robert Roberts, Each sunset on the Arizona horizon was a reminder that his son would never come home again. 2018 passed in a fog of false hopes and leads that led nowhere. Linda hired 3 different private investigators. The first, a former homicide detective from Phoenix, spent 6 months re-interviewing witnesses and re-examining evidence. His conclusion was brutally simple. It's as if they were removed from reality. The second investigator, a specialist in missing persons, focused on the kidnapping theory. For months, he pursued rumors of human traffickers operating near national parks. All leads proved unfounded. There was no history of kidnappings in the area, no evidence of suspicious vehicles, no ransom demands. In 2019, an independent documentary about the case generated new national attention. The film, titled Vanished: The Grand Canyon Mystery, featured dramatic recreations and interviews with the families. For a few weeks, the case returned to headlines. Tips poured in from across the country. Supposed sightings in Las Vegas, reports of people matching their descriptions in small New Mexico towns, even claims of alien abduction. Each lead was investigated. Each one proved false. Robert Roberts, the retired ranger, became obsessed with solving his son's disappearance. He spent months walking the same trails, examining every rock formation, every cave, every possible hiding spot. His graying hair turned completely white. His hands, once steady from decades guiding tourists, began to tremble. "Dad was consumed," said his daughter Sarah Roberts in an interview years later. He couldn't accept that Mike had simply disappeared. Every morning, he woke up convinced that today would be the day he found answers. In 2020, the pandemic brought a forced pause to physical searches, but the families never stopped searching online. Linda Mitchell created pages on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok dedicated to the case. The hashtags #FindAshleyMitchell and #Grand Canyon Mystery gained thousands of followers. Psychics and amateur detectives offered their theories. None led to breakthroughs. The outdoor enthusiast community never forgot the case. Hiking forums dedicated entire threads to theories. Some suggested underground cave systems not yet mapped. Others proposed sudden flash floods that could have swept them away without leaving traces. The most persistent theory involved an undiscovered vertical shaft that could have swallowed both hikers. In 2021, a scientific expedition from the University of Arizona was granted permission to conduct ground-penetrating radar surveys in the disappearance area. For 2 weeks, equipment sophisticated enough to detect objects buried 15 feet underground swept every inch of the zone. The results were devastatingly empty. There were no hidden caves, no vertical shafts, nothing that could explain where 2 people would have gone. It was heartbreaking, admitted Dr. James Patterson, expedition leader. We hoped to find at least some geological feature that could account for the disappearance. We found absolutely nothing anomalous. Linda Mitchell aged visibly during these years. Her brown hair developed streaks of silver. The laugh lines around her eyes deepened into permanent worry lines. She never stopped believing that Ashley was alive somewhere, but hope was slowly killing her. "I dreamed about her every night," Linda later revealed. "Sometimes they were nightmares about what might have happened, but most nights they were dreams where she simply walked through our front door as if she had never been gone." By 2022, even the most dedicated searchers began to accept that the case might never be solved. The official investigation remained open, but active resources were minimal. Occasional hikers still reported finding small items they thought might be related. A piece of fabric, a broken buckle. But forensic analysis always showed them to be unrelated. Robert Roberts's health began declining rapidly. Decades of hiking combined with years of emotional stress took their toll. In 2023, he was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Ironically, a man who had spent his life helping others navigate the wilderness was slowly losing his own way. March 22, 2024. Exactly 7 years and 1 week after the original disappearance. Karen and Steve Williams, a retired couple from Michigan, were enjoying a peaceful morning hike in the same area where Ashley and Michael had vanished years before. At 7:23 in the morning, Karen spotted something unusual near a cluster of red rocks, approximately 300 yards from where Ashley's backpack had originally been found. Initially, she thought it was an injured deer, a human figure curled in a fetal position, motionless against the sandstone. "Steve, there's someone over there," Karen called to her husband. As they approached cautiously, the impossible truth began to dawn. It was a woman, apparently unconscious, wearing hiking clothes that looked remarkably fresh, despite being in the desert. More shocking still, she appeared to be in her late 20s, exactly the same age Ashley Mitchell would have been in 2017. Steve immediately called 911 while Karen checked for vital signs. The woman was alive, breathing regularly, but completely unresponsive to vocal or physical stimuli. Her skin was pale but not sunburned. Her lips weren't cracked from dehydration. Her clothes weren't torn or faded. To all appearances, she looked like she had been placed there minutes before, not years. It was impossible, Steve later told reporters. She looked exactly like the photographs we'd seen of Ashley Mitchell. Same red-brown hair, same height, same facial features, but that would mean she hadn't aged a single day in 7 years. At 8:15, paramedics arrived via helicopter. Lead paramedic Maria Santos immediately noticed the anomalies. The woman's body temperature was slightly below normal, 96.8 degrees Fahrenheit, but stable. Her heart rate was slow but steady at 58 beats per minute. Most puzzling, she showed none of the typical signs of extended exposure to desert conditions. "In 7 years working desert rescues," Santos commented, "I've never seen someone found in wilderness conditions look so preserved. Usually, after even a few hours in the desert, there are obvious signs: dehydration, sun damage, insect bites. This woman looked like she had been sleeping in a climate-controlled room." During the helicopter transport to Flagstaff Medical Center, the woman remained unconscious, but began murmuring words too soft to understand. Santos strained to listen and caught fragments. "Can't," he said, "7 years. Mike, where is?" News of the discovery spread quickly through the small community of Grand Canyon enthusiasts. By afternoon, rumors were flying across social media. Someone matching Ashley Mitchell's description had been found alive, apparently unchanged after 7 years. Linda Mitchell received a call from the Coconino County Sheriff's Office at 2:47 p.m. "Mrs. Mitchell," said Detective Ray Morales gently, "we need you to come to Flagstaff Medical Center. We've found someone who might be your daughter." The drive from Portland took Linda 18 hours. She barely stopped, surviving on coffee and adrenaline. In her mind, she rehearsed every possible scenario. Maybe it was someone else who just looked like Ashley. Maybe it was Ashley, traumatized and changed beyond recognition. Maybe she really was about to see her daughter for the first time in 7 years. At 9:15 a.m. on March 23rd, Linda Mitchell walked into hospital room 314. The woman in the bed was awake now, staring at the ceiling with green eyes that Linda would recognize anywhere. It was Ashley. Definitely, unmistakably Ashley. But Ashley exactly as she had looked in 2017. Not a day older, not a pound thinner, not one more wrinkle. "Mom?" Ashley's voice was exactly as Linda remembered. Soft, slightly raspy from years of hiking in dry air. Linda collapsed into a chair beside the bed, sobbing. "Baby, where have you been? Where have you been for 7 years?" Ashley's response sent chills through everyone in the room. 7 years? "Mom, what do you mean 7 years? I was with Mike yesterday. We were... Her voice trailed off, confusion, replacing recognition. "Where is Mike? He was right there with me. Where is Michael?" Dr. Elizabeth Chen, the neurologist leading Ashley's care, later described Ashley's mental state as completely inconsistent with someone who had lived through 7 years of experiences. Her memories, her speech patterns, even her mannerisms were exactly those of a 28-year-old woman from 2017. It was as if she had been placed in some form of suspended animation. Over the following 48 hours, Ashley underwent extensive medical testing. Blood work, brain scans, psychological evaluation. Every test yielded the same impossible result. Physically, cognitively, psychologically, she was exactly the same person who had disappeared on March 15, 2017. No signs of aging, no indication of trauma, no evidence of having lived through 7 years of experiences. But gradually, fragmentary memories began emerging. And when Ashley finally revealed what she remembered about those 7 years, her account would challenge everything anyone thought they knew about reality itself. On the third day at Flagstaff Medical Center, Ashley Mitchell finally began to speak. But her revelations didn't bring the relief her family expected. They opened an abyss of terror that no one was prepared to face. "It wasn't 7 years," Ashley repeated obsessively. "For me, it was moments, fragments. Like waking from a dream you can't remember completely, but that never really ends." Dr. Elizabeth Chen recorded all sessions with Ashley. What she revealed defies all known scientific understanding. "Mike and I were photographing near that small spring when we heard something strange. It was like a sound you feel more than hear. Mike said it was just rocks cooling, but I knew it was different. Then we saw something that shouldn't exist, an opening in the rock that wasn't there minutes before. Mike wanted to investigate. I said we shouldn't go, but he was too curious." Ashley pauses, her green eyes fixed on something only she can see. "We entered just a few steps. The temperature dropped drastically. It wasn't like a normal cave. The air was thick, almost solid. And then I can't remember clearly. There were voices, but they weren't human. They weren't even sounds a human throat could make. Mike screamed once. Then silence." The most disturbing part of her account is what happened to Michael Roberts. Ashley remembers fragments, images, of him in a state she describes as not completely dead, but not alive. His eyes remained open, but empty. He could move, but like a puppet controlled by invisible strings. "They kept him," Ashley whispers, tears streaming down her face. "Mike was there with me the entire time, but it wasn't him anymore. It was as if something had emptied everything that made him Mike and left just a shell. He would look at me sometimes, and I could see that a part of him was still trapped inside, screaming to get out." Ashley describes a space that doesn't follow known physical laws. Corridors that extend infinitely, but which you can cross in a few steps. temperatures that fluctuate between freezing and scalding without apparent source, and presences she never managed to see completely, but that were constantly watching. They showed me things, she reveals. They weren't evil exactly, but they weren't benevolent either. It was as if they were scientific, studying us. Mike and I were specimens to them. He was the one they chose to modify. I was kept intact for observation. Dr. Chen asks about the passage of time. Ashley's answer is the most chilling of all. Time didn't exist there the way we know it. Sometimes it felt like eternities had passed. Other times, it was as if only moments had passed since we entered that hole in the rock. They showed me they could control it, accelerate, slow down, even reverse small periods of experience. The final revelation about Michael Roberts devastated his family. According to Ashley, he's still there. Or at least, what's left of him is. The entities that captured them didn't release him because his modifications weren't complete. Ashley was released as a message, a demonstration of power, or simply because they had finished studying her. Mike begged me not to come back for him, Ashley remembers, her voice completely broken. The last time I saw him, he managed to speak. Just a few words. Tell them not to come. Looking for me. Don't let anyone come after me. Then they put me back to sleep, and I woke up on those rocks. Ashley's revelations raise more questions than they answer. Scientific teams from 3 universities analyzed her accounts, looking for conventional explanations. Psychological trauma, dehydration-induced hallucinations, false memory syndrome. No theory satisfactorily explains her perfect physical condition after 7 years, or the precision of details she shouldn't be able to. Remember, in May 2024, a limited expedition returned to the original disappearance site. Using state-of-the-art equipment, researchers searched for any geological or electromagnetic anomaly that could corroborate Ashley's account. They found a small area where electronic instruments consistently malfunction. Compasses spin wildly. GPS devices show impossible coordinates, and digital cameras occasionally capture images that don't correspond to what's being photographed. The Roberts family remains divided about what to do with the information about Michael. Sarah Roberts wants to organize a search expedition despite Ashley's warnings. Robert Roberts, in his moments of lucidity between Alzheimer's progression, insists his son is already dead and that any rescue attempt would be suicide. Linda Mitchell, meanwhile, struggles with a different kind of trauma. "I have my daughter back," she said in a rare interview, "but she's no longer completely my Ashley. There's something in her eyes now, an awareness of things a person shouldn't know. She has nightmares where she speaks in languages that don't exist." The case remains officially open, but has been reclassified as anomalous circumstances, a category that barely exists in official records. Federal agencies have shown interest, but their investigations are conducted secretly, away from public eyes. Ashley hasn't spoken publicly since her sessions with Dr. Chen. She lives quietly with her mother in Portland, but neighbors report seeing her staring at the eastern horizon for hours, as if waiting for something. She never walks alone anymore, and never goes anywhere near natural rock formations. For the general public, the case is another unsolved mystery. Just another story about people who disappeared in wilderness areas and never returned. But for those closest to it, Ashley Mitchell's return raises a terrifying possibility. That there are places in our world where different rules apply, where time moves differently, and where some disappearances are not accidents or crimes, but something much more disturbing. Michael Roberts remains missing, And if Ashley's account is accurate, he may be experiencing a form of existence that is neither life nor death, waiting in a place that exists alongside our reality, but follows none of its laws. The Grand Canyon continues to attract millions of visitors annually. Most never venture far from established trails, but occasionally experienced. Hikers disappear without explanation, adding their names to a growing list of people who seem to disappear from reality itself. The terrible secret Ashley revealed may not be unique to her experience. It may be just a glimpse of something much larger, much more widespread, and much more terrifying than anyone wants to acknowledge. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, but once you know they exist, they never really leave you alone.